back, tight strap, hands white-knuckled. He leaned in with all he had, and then he looked over his shoulder. He said, "Poppy, watch me spin." And for the next 30 seconds, I couldn't tell if I was supposed to be laughing or crying as he just pedaled his little heart out and didn't move an inch. And I know you know leaders that are doing exactly the same thing right now. That's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Stay tuned.
Master the Story Power method to captivate your audience, improve workplace culture, and 10x your fundraising.
Scan the
Think storytelling's just for bedtime? Nah, it's the secret sauce for business magic. Stuck in a rut with bland pitches and yawning clients? Enter Boost Your Business with StoryPower. 6 weeks of epic storytelling training. It's like leveling up in a video game but for your career. Master the art of narrative and watch connections blossom like a viral TikTok. Simple, impactful, and game-changing. Ready to transform your biz vibes? Dive in now and make storytelling your superpower.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at StoryPowerAcademy.com for leadership development and communication skills training.
I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. I spent most of the day in school yesterday. Over the first couple of hours, I was in the elementary school where one of my grandkids graduated. Tomorrow, another one graduates. Next week, another one graduates. Second grade, fifth grade, then high school. Not the same kid, obviously, but they are brothers, all from the same house. What's fascinating is how much work goes into that graduation. And I don't necessarily mean the work from the time you start school until the time you finish school. I mean the day of the graduation, the herding of the children in, the young people, the young adults, if they may be in college already, the lining them up properly, the practices, the rehearsals, the scripts, the awards, the things they're going to get, does the tassel go on this side or that side? Is my hat facing forward? Do I even have it on right? All of the work, the preparation that goes into this. And what's missed often is what it took to get to graduation day. We have so much pomp and circumstance. I believe it was James Dobson that I first heard say it. I'm sure the idea has been around for a long time, but James Dobson said, "It amazes me how much effort, energy, and finance people invest in a wedding day, and then they invest nothing in the marriage. It's like we have this big giant hurrah of a pep rally, but then we have no team to take the field." That's kind of what I see in a lot of leaders. And my grandson was probably, in fact, the one who's graduating tomorrow, he was probably 5 or 6 years old. He had brought his bicycle to our place to hang out, and the community we lived in at the time had a really nice pool and a volleyball sand pit. And he decided to ride his bicycle off the end of the sidewalk into the sand pit. Now, mind you, this bicycle had wheels that were, well, smaller than a dinner plate, but it had training wheels too, just in case you fell over. And since he was still learning to ride, that was kind of a perfect fit. But he rode off the end of that sidewalk, landed in that sand, and when he stopped moving forward, what he didn't do was get off the bike and put it back on the sidewalk. What he didn't do was get off the bike and ask for some help. What he didn't do was look to me and go, "Why am I not moving?" No, he had a death grip on those handlebars, white knuckle, leaned in, serious face. He was as committed to getting out of that sand pit as anybody could have ever been committed. He was determined that if I just try hard enough, I will move forward. Where you're holding that image in your mind of him spinning till his little legs couldn't stand it anymore, and the rooster tail of sand 5, 6 feet in the air, I want you to ask yourself, what does your to-do list look like today? What do you have to do today? What have you chosen already that today I will dig in and I will work until it works? You might have heard things like, most people don't plan to fail, they just, fail to plan. Or the plan works if you work the plan. If you've got a great strategy, dig in, power through, don't quit, don't give up. Maybe you've even seen those pictures where the guy's got the diamond mine and he's digging with his pickaxe. And in the image, you can see what he can't see. And that is that he's like this far from a breakthrough. And that's when he decides to quit. Well, there's a lot of truth to that. There are many people who have walked away from the slot machine, so to speak. And the next person that sits down drops a nickel and wins millions. It just needed one more nickel, one more quarter, one more $5, one more pull of the one-armed bandit, and you could have been the millionaire, but instead someone else. It wasn't the lottery ticket that you didn't buy, it was the next person. That's the one that hit. We feel like that through the course of our life, in our relationships, in our careers, in our business planning, in our marketing, in our coaching. If I just push a little harder, if I just work at it a little longer, the strategy I have is going to be a success. It just needs a little more effort. Let me remind you again what Tony Robbins said. He's been the expert so far. Maybe you don't agree with everything he said. It's hard to argue with his bank account. It's hard to argue with the people who look back and go, because of what he said, I changed my life. I do things differently now than I've ever done them before because of what I heard him say. Now, I do agree there are some things that I personally, my belief system, my ideologies, my worldview don't perfectly align with Tony Robbins. There are pastors that I don't totally align with, politicians that I don't totally align with. There are days that the woman I've been married to for over 30 years and we don't totally agree on everything. Can you imagine? And yet I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. I take everything that I can learn from someone who's accomplished things I haven't yet accomplished. And I apply them the best that I can. And Tony says, the best strategy in the world will fail if the story in your head doesn't jive with the strategy. If you're thoroughly convinced that pedaling harder is going to get me out of the sand pit, you will tell yourself, I just have to pedal harder, until your legs fall off, or the wheel gives up, or the chain breaks. But you won't stop pedaling harder no matter what, because something in you says pedaling harder is the right strategy. Your story and your strategy, they're not working together. You got to change the strategy. Maybe you think if I just lean forward on the bike, or I lean backward on the bike, or I move it if I were to get up and pick it up and move it 3 feet further into the sand, suddenly it looks like I've changed my strategy. Suddenly it looks like I'm moving more sand. I mean, look at the rooster tail now. It's 8 or 10 feet, not 4 or 5 feet, not 6 feet. It's bigger. That means I'm making more progress, right? No, you're still stuck in the sand. You're still pedaling in futility. You may have adjusted the strategy so that you can change the story, but you haven't really done anything. Now, I have 13 grandchildren. I've had other grandchildren who had, in a very similar circumstance, gotten their wheels stuck where they just weren't making any progress. And I've literally watched them get off the bike and walk away. Completely abandon the bike. They're a lot more like the gold mine or the coal miner who's digging through, and they can't see that they're membrane away from breaking through to the success. If I just rocked the bike a little bit, it would have gotten some traction and I would have been on my way. No, I've watched them throw temper tantrums, complete emotional meltdowns, because progress stopped. Maybe you know some people like that. Maybe you've encountered someone that quit because it didn't feel like they were making progress. See, Tony says the state, the story, the strategy have all got to be in alignment. You've got to feel like, you've got to position yourself emotionally, mentally, psychologically. You've got to frame yourself to say, what I'm about to do next is worth it. What I'm about to do next is genuinely going to change the game. I believe that this strategy is going to work. And the story that I'm telling myself is consistent with the story that I'm telling the world, and it's consistent with the actions necessary to make that strategy work. If you haven't taken the time to ask why, I have one of those coaches in my life that asks why. Why is that true? Why do you believe that? Why did you make that choice? Why did you go down that path? I believe in the power of why. There is no question that I believe in the power of why. But I can tell you, there is a point where I just want to throw up or throw something. Because there's a place with why that you really begin to question your own motives. Not the strategy, not the tactics. Is it a funnel? Is it a website? Is it a landing page? Is it an email sequence? Is it a video sequence? Is it the podcast? What is it that's going to catapult you to the next level? Sometimes, honestly, it's one tiny little tweak. Had a conversation last night in a network meeting that we were at, and the person I was talking to said, I've had my podcast for a while. We've had hundreds of guests on. I have a great reputation. We're seeing new subscribers and leaders, and we've shifted our focus to one particular platform. And so I hired someone to accelerate our growth with that platform in mind. Well, that platform has some very unique strategies to it, some ways that if you follow the rules, if you play the game, if you match the algorithm, so to speak, you can really blow up on that platform. And they've increased subscribers, and they've got new viewers, and they've got great looking thumbnails, and they're getting found in searches, and all of those things are happening. But the podcaster also said, there was a season that I hired somebody and I paid a lot of money. A lot of money to me and a lot of money to Tony Robbins are two totally different things. I get that, so I don't know what a lot of money is. I can only imagine what a lot of money would have been. 5 figures maybe. The person said, I paid a lot of money to this team to kind of shift the imagery of the existing channel. Right? Kind of revamp it all, update it, make it awesome, make it findable, make it so that when people come across our content on that platform, they're like, I want to hang out here for a minute. And the result was that we had these incredible openers, these beautiful intros, so cinematic, so well produced, so well edited, perfect audio, music, roll-ins, blah, blah, blah. And then it would go to our commercial, and then it would come back to me in the studio. I was like, hi, it's me. Today we have a guest. And not to say that there's no energy, not to say that there's no power in the content, that there's no brilliance in the development of the messages. That's not at all what we're saying. What we are saying is it would be like showing up to a trailer for Mission Impossible and then sitting down with your popcorn for 2 hours of Notebook. For some people, yay! And for other people, I want my money back. And that disconnect between the way it was promoted and the way it was delivered is the state story strategy problem. It's incongruent. It's inconsistent. What you as a viewer thought you were going to get out of that, something totally different. Now, was the effort exerted to rank higher in the algorithm? Yes. Was money invested? Was time spent editing the thumbnails, creating better imagery, making sure the SEO and the details and the content and the links all performed in the way that they should at the highest level? Yes. Was a whole lot of work done to make that happen? Yes. And did it function? Yes. And in my opinion, that execution over whatever period of time, over whatever investment was made, over whatever emotional investment was made in that, whatever psychological commitment was needed to pull that off, was picking up the bicycle and moving it further into the sand by 3 feet. It was work. It was a different strategy than we had before. We've started over in a new space, but there's no guarantee that that amount of effort is going to produce the results that you want. Why? Ugh. I hate that question sometimes. But if you don't take the time to answer that question, if you don't keep asking why is the sky blue? I don't know, 'cause it is. Are you looking for a scientific reason? Are you looking for a faith reason? Are you looking for, today it looks like the sky is orange. Why is the sky orange? The sky's not orange, the sky is blue. No, Daddy, I'm looking out the window. The sky is orange. Oh, yeah, we're too close to the wildfire. We should move. Well, why is the sky orange? might be a genuine question with a real answer that you should be addressing. But it's easy to get caught in the rut of thinking, well, I've already thought through all this. I've already used the AI and done all the brand strategy. See, after I finished the morning in the school with one of my grandsons going through all the pomp and circumstances of, 80-something little kids that graduated from second grade, I went on to another class, reading minds. And we learned how AI is being used in surveys. And there's a QR code. I don't know if the cameras can pick this up enough for you to be able to use it. Let's see. Screenshot. Too late. If you scan that QR code, what happens is it opens up a survey, and you get a chance to use this survey that you can ask and answer questions. And it's not just the little tick the boxes kind of a survey. It's not the quiz like you did in the ad libs in the back of the magazine to figure out who you should be dating and what color you should dye your hair or paint your fingernails. It's not that kind of survey. It's the kind of survey that uses your responses and modifies the questions as your responses go on. And if you're the enterprising individual who hires this company, they let you write the questions so that you can get the answers from your clients and potential clients. And it's like a review system on steroids, because it not only takes the text of the words, the actual grammar and sentence structure, it reads the vocal tonality. Because we all know there's a big difference between fine and fine. And if you don't know the difference between those two, you're probably not married. And if you don't recognize there is a difference between those two and you're married, you better figure it out fast or you may not be married long. I'm just saying. But what does that really tell us? I mean, yeah, we got some education. We've learned that reading minds is very important. We've learned that there are tools out there that can read your mind in a very uncanny way that might frighten you. And you can spend a whole lot of time with that data asking and answering the questions. What did I learn? What did I hear? Should I make changes in my strategy? Move the bicycle 3 feet because I now have new data that I didn't have 6 months ago. Well, you can easily get caught in that rut too. You can find yourself rearranging yourself all over that sand pit. You might even get close enough to the edge of the grass that you accidentally do catch traction and run into the fence or the cross ties or out into the grass. You just never know, right? But until you can measure your productivity against the activity that you're doing and say, that's the action that made a difference for me. Understanding that question from my clients, that survey response, that it wasn't just the words that they typed, it was the way they answered that question. That tells me a lot. When you can quantify that and change your behavior because of that, that becomes a very valuable tool. And until then, it's no different than redesigning your graphics or changing all your thumbnails or rewriting the code behind your address book. I mean, it's busy work, but is it activity like POPPI watch me spin, or is it activity that actually changes things for you? It's great to have a strategy. It's better to have a strategy that aligns with the story that's consistent with who you are and who you serve and the work that you do. It's even greater when the emotional state energizes you to live out that story by performing that strategy. That's kind of taken all of it to the next level. That's a very important aspect of leadership. It's a very important aspect of team building. And if you abandon those principles in team building, what you're going to have is more people in the sandpit pedaling their little hearts out. How many of you know someone who in the season that they were working their tail off and thought, if I just add one more person to this, we'll make progress? They didn't change the strategy. They didn't move the bicycle out of the pit. They just put more bicycles in the pit with more people to pedal harder to work in the same direction with the same strategy and the same tactics that haven't been working anyway. If we were in a crowd, I'd ask you to raise your hands. I'd love it if you just type in the comments down there. Yeah, I see that. See, I'm about 5 minutes away from having to make a pretty serious decision for myself for the day. And I'd love for your feedback on that. See, here's the decision. Yesterday, I left early in the morning for the graduation and didn't get a chance to do the podcast because we would have been up at like 4 a.m. to be able to get that done, get it edited, get out of the studio, drive the 2 hours to graduation. I do not regret going to the graduation. I do not regret the next 2.5 hours that I got to spend with 4 of my grandsons around the table at Cracker Barrel and Poppy's at the head of a round table. I need to think through that one again. But I was at the round table with the grandsons on both sides and 2 on the other side, and my wife at the table. We had a great time enjoying a meal together. And then from there, we went to the AI class. And then from there, we went to a network meeting. A network meeting with the C-Suite Network. Great bunch of people. Great things to learn, great connections. People who've made hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars that I look up to from a success standpoint and go, I need to figure out some of the strategies they used and see if they would work for me. I need to build some relationships, maybe even find some clients in here. And so we keep going back to that place. And it's a pay-to-play access. Just to be in the room is going to cost you something. Financially, time-wise, emotional investment-wise, relationship-wise. These things don't happen to you. They happen for you after they happen in you. If that didn't make any sense to you, schedule a one-on-one because you need it, and it should make sense to you. But see, in the next 5 minutes or so, I've got to decide if I'm going to jump in the car and drive 2 hours to another network meeting. Now, the truth is, it's a 2-hour drive. It's 2 hours in the car, in traffic, from our studio to where they're doing this network meeting. The network meeting, there will probably be a person who speaks for 15 or 20 minutes, maybe longer if they don't know how to manage their time. And there will be a chance for everybody around the room to pop up and introduce themselves. There'll probably be a meal. And in 90 minutes, it'll all be done, it'll all be over, and I'll have a 2-hour drive to get back again. So the investment in the activity, the pedaling, looks like about 5.5 hours, and it, as of this morning, almost $4.25 a gallon for gasoline, about $65 worth of fuel. Now, if I could put an immediate ROI on it, I'm going to go up there, I'm going to come back with a new client, there's going to be money in the bank, and the expenditure of the time will be worth it. I can justify my time by X number of hours, et cetera, et cetera. It'd be really easy to look at that and go, effort expended, productivity results. Awesome. I just have a hard time with it. Now, here's what I do know. There's never been a network meeting that I've been in, maybe 1 or 2 in my life, in my business career as an entrepreneur or in corporate America, where walking into that network meeting meant I walked out that day with a list of customers. That's never happened. Potential customers? Yes. Leads? Yes. Follow-up necessary? Yes. But in an even exchange of, hey, I showed up the first time and now I've got clients, generally doesn't work like that. In fact, there are some network meetings that I was a part of for 5, 6, 7 years. Built some good friendships, never generated a penny in income. It's like pedaling in the sandpit. There are also other network meetings where I know that these people have formed relationships. Their bond is tighter than some guy that lives 2 hours away. Why does he even bother to come? Well, I was invited. That's why I came. I thought it was a great group. There's great alignment. There are a couple of people in there that I feel like I could help right away. But the gatekeepers, if you will, are not going to invite you to the platform, but to be a sponsor or an investor in that group until you've proven that you're going to show up consistently, not pop in and pop out. They want to know that you're invested in them before they invest in you. That's fair. So how many times do you invest 5 hours plus fuel costs plus 5 hours of getting no work done in the studio because I can't do in the car what I do in the studio? How many times do you do that to invest in that, hoping for a return? I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I'm now 3 minutes away from making that decision and I haven't made it yet. I'd love your feedback. Just type in the comments and tell me, should I go? Should I give up another 5 hours later? Oh, by the way, there's another graduation tomorrow morning. So before I leave the studio today or before I go home tonight, I have to record tomorrow morning's podcast. Yes, I already have a title, and no, I'm not going to tell you what it is. Love to have your feedback, though. It's going to all these network meetings where I know that I'm going to invest time, I've got to invest energy, I've got to invest finances in building this successful relationship in order to build success for the future. Is that 5 hours given up worth it at this point? Or is that pedaling harder in the sand, adding 5 or 6 more people to pedal harder in the sand? Should we be filling in the sandbox with paper stones maybe so we can actually get some traction? Or should we pick up the bicycles and move them somewhere else? Where exactly are we wasting time and energy? And why do we keep doing this? Motive, intention, and consequences. Those really are the things you should be asking why about. Why do I do this? What's my motivation? Why do I keep doing it? Am I intentional about this? Why am I intentionally doing this? Is this the outcome that I expect to get? Or am I just doing this because I feel like I have to? And I'm not really intentional about what I invest and what I get out. And how do those consequences measure up? Consequences are not always negative. Some consequences are positive. I don't know if you've ever pondered that or not. But if you're not asking yourself why often enough until you want to throw up or throw something, eventually you'll come to the answer. Motives, intentions, and consequences. Maybe it's time to drop the mic. The motives, the intention, and the consequences. And move the bicycle out of the sand. Or just go to the beach. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. There is a retreat coming up that I want you to know about. It's called the StoryPower Academy Retreat. This StoryPower Retreat is about focusing on your communication skills, taking them to the next level. Discover, develop, draft, deploy, and deliver some of the best stories you've ever learned. You're going to listen, create, connect, relax, and reflect around this beautiful lake scene in Granbury, Texas. It's a chance to rejuvenate and refresh and start over with some of the best training you can possibly imagine around storytelling, leadership, and communication. Join us. Get away.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at